It's time to get you caught up with all things sports.
Yes! 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 Yes!
On the throw-in.
One thing is certain. None of this is possible without you, the listeners.
From baseball, football, wrestling, and more, covering local Cincinnati sports stories, news, and highlights.
Why is he always calling me meat?
With your host, Justin Trento.
When it's all said and done, we're going to look back and remember this is what started it all.
Available on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Let's play the ball! Let's play the ball! Yeah!
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode, another week of The Throw-In with me, Justin, here on this beautiful Monday afternoon. It is Monday, September 11th of 2023. And wherever you guys are at, whether you guys are just getting off of work and making your way home, whether you guys are wrapping up this afternoon on work on this fine Monday, or just enjoying the beautiful weather, stay safe out there, and we welcome you guys in. What's going on, everyone? Excited to be here. Definitely a memorable Monday afternoon, September 11th, remembering 9/11. A little, I wake up today, and it is kind of more of a tradition for me the last couple of years, as 9/11 passes is it's another indication of National Football League underway. It's also a resemblance of a fall time. They're just the current events that takes place over over these few weeks that really kind of bolts us in from summertime to fall time. And this is another event that technically does it, and it's not necessarily in the most exciting way. Here, we'll talk plenty of football, and we'll be excited to talk about that. But I'm 28 years old. I was 6 years old when when I experienced life-changing, history-making, historical events here in the United States. I remember 9/11, and for a lot of people, vast majority people remember 9/11 as if it was yesterday. And there's also a good amount of people that weren't even born until after 9/11. My brother was, let's say, I don't know, 6 years old. My fiance was, I would say, not even, probably 4 or 5 months old when she experienced 9/11. And so, and then there's people I know, like, for example, my daughters, they're not even old enough to even know what 9/11 is. And we try to explain to them these past events. And I guess we're celebrating, 22 years since, the World Trade Center was attacked. I think in our generation, it kind of really brought a lot of shock, a lot of fear. I think for the first time in quite some time, I think it brought genuine fear to the men and women in the United States. I was 6 years old. I was waking up. I lived out in San Diego. I woke up and I was getting ready for school on a typical, day, like any young kid would do. And I get ready, and I walk out to the living room, and my dad is telling me, well, guess what, no school. And being as young as I am, as I was, I just sat there, and I was just probably more excited to think that, hey, I didn't have to go to school today. I didn't know a whole lot what happened. Grew up on the West Coast, and so we had our own little, my dad would tell me stories, but from my my understanding, it was, definitely shook the world. Um, Standstill moment. And today, we were, just like every year, this was a mass destruction, and it was a moment where the Earth stood still for a moment. We honestly were unprepared. We were tested. A lot of people will claim that we were weak during that time, and you talk about something as catastrophic as 9/11 that had to bring us back together. And there's a lot of controversy about what happened afterwards, and was it as necessary um, to take those extreme measures. And I can't tell you, because I really wasn't all that invested year in and year out. But you look back on the videos today, on the photos. This morning I woke up pretty early. We're about 5 weeks away from having our child, and so the wife is not really doing really well in the morning. She kind of woke up early this morning, and stomach wasn't sitting well. Baby was kicking all in sorts of directions, and so I kind of got up with her, and then I just couldn't go back to sleep. So I got up and I started preparing for the show today, and come to just the first thing I had on was watching a 2-hour video of one of the news stations talking about 9/11. Talking about exactly when it was happening, and the time frames and the incidents, reporting it live. And so it's, for me, it is touching. We did lose a lot of great men and women, not just who were employees at those at those buildings and sites, but we did lose people who was trying to rescue you know people that were trapped in these areas. And I think it did change a lot of perspective. I remember for the longest time, I always got excited because my dad used to actually work at a nuclear power plant. If people are out in the West Coast, they kind of understand what I'm talking about there. But there is California. There's a if you're driving up the 5 freeway, there is a there's a power plant. I don't know if it's still there, or but it's a historical power plant that's called the San Onofre Power Plant. And you when you drive past it, you're halfway in between downtown San Diego and Los Angeles. And he would work there, and he was working there for several years. I remember when he was working there, I used to take his, have those events where you get to take your kids to school day type stuff. And I remember used to be able to head out to these plants, to the power plant up there, and they had 2 domes that looked. They called them a little. I'm not going to say it on this episode, but there are 2 domes that were paired up together, and they had tops on them. And you knew it was just an indication that, hey, if you lived in San Diego, if you lived in Southern California, and you drove up and down the 5 freeway all the time, you just knew about that. And you knew when you hit that, hey, we're about an hour away from home. And so there's just those little things, just being able to look into the bottomless pit, because they would generate electricity. So there's just, you see these endless pits and stuff like that. And man, I gotta say, a lot of things have changed since then. And I hope that we've learned. It's always key important that we learn from our past, we learn from our mistakes, and the way that I see, the attack of 9/11, me being a little bit of a history buff, it kind of reminds me, and it's probably definitely not as significant as this, but every generation or every century seems like there's always their handful of the goods and the bads. And for me, it's like, man, I could just almost imagine what it was like living back in the day when Pearl Harbor was attacked, and those people who had to suffer and the ones who lost their lives during those battles and those wars. So, you know, man, it just it hits everyone a different way. It hits me in a certain way, definitely because I was a young kid. I think that's something that I live with forever. And it, it goes on for, well after, September 11th of 2001, that we still have to remember and remind ourselves where we were 22 years ago today, so that we could prevent from being in that direction, in the future. So, um, you know, it's a day of remembrance, a day of thoughts and prayers to the families, who still mourn over that tragic accident. But so this program this afternoon is dedicated to those, um, to this event, and I hope it's a good event. We're getting off to a weak start. Got a few things I got to wrap up from last week. It was kind of an off week. Try to get a couple episodes done. It didn't really work the way that I planned, but we're back at it again here on this Monday. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, boy, week one is officially kind of in the books. We have Monday Night Football tonight in about 3 hours, where the Buffalo Bills go on to MetLife Stadium and take on the New York Jets. And I'm sure that the Jets will like a better performance than, out of a home, game than what the Giants put on last night after getting shut out 40-0, man. 40-0. I gotta say that, there's two ways to think about this. And one thing we'll talk later on in our program, but there is just, week one is full of the unexpected, and when I say the unexpected, I really mean the unexpected. Anything could happen, because all 32 teams are 0-0. You can sit there and judge each and every player, each and every staff on every organization, and say, all right, he's going to make it. He's going to suck. This team is not going to win a single game of the year, or this team is going to go undefeated. And until they get out there onto the field, and until they play football and play a full-on game, then you really just can't tell. And we'll talk about the Bengals losing, and I think it's an embarrassing loss that they had against the Cleveland Browns back on Sunday. But, I mean, for example, here's a prime example. The Detroit Lions beat the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions, back on Thursday night. Week one, first game of the season at Arrowhead Stadium. The Lions, Jared Goff, okay, and the Lions beat the Chiefs 21-20 to kick off this football season. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is a perfect resemblance. I felt like it was a perfect way to kick off the season. Okay, because if you are the Chiefs, you're not worried about a loss. You're losing to the Lions. Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing. Yeah, it's not the way that you want to kick off the season. But the Chiefs, there's no doubt. I could talk to any Chiefs fans now today, and they're going to sit here and tell me that there's no doubt that they're going back to the playoffs. They actually have so much confidence that they're going to go on and win the Super Bowl. Compared to if I talk to a Bengals fan, I may get a more of a mixed 50-50. So the Chiefs' loss on Thursday doesn't quite mean anything to them. It just, hey, let's brush it off. Let's go back and do it again next week. Well, when we talk about the Detroit Lions, what a win that they absolutely needed. Now, I'm not going to go out and say that the Lions are going to have a 13-4 season, but when we talked plenty about the NFC North in the preseason, and I want to say it's anybody's ball game. I mean, I have. Let me see how they set out. So you had Minnesota, who lost 20-17 back on Sunday, and then you had Green Bay, who beat the Chicago Bears with not even their best players on the field, 38-20. Okay, I just think a win. This is a momentum for the Lions that carried in from the end of last season into this season, and if you have a chance. If anyone has a chance at the division, it starts week 1. I think the NFC North is one of those divisions that has to start off early. Okay. We talk about, there's a lot of talk about the first few weeks doesn't necessarily matter. Yeah, they have their own statistics that's kind of been broken here and there. Like if you begin this year off 0-2. Well, guess what? We've seen that, and then we've seen those teams go to the Super Bowl. So I'm not really worried about statistics. Yeah, it is when you get off to an 0-2, 0-3 start, it is that much difficult because you are now 2 games behind the race after, in October, and you really just don't want that. But overall, okay, we sit here and, the Lions needed the win, and now they have their advantage wherever they're headed off to next week in week 2. And, at least they have this win under their belt. One more win closer to maybe stealing a faith in this year's NFC postseason. So kudos to the Lions. But then everyone gets excited about the Dallas Cowboys. I get a lot of people on social media going like the Cowboys are going to win the Super. Before the game, people are saying, all right, Cowboys are eliminated from the playoffs. And that's just a joking matter. They do that each and every year before the season even starts. But then there's people, because they did a 40-0 shutout against the New York Giants in the pouring rain, which I think I'm flabbergasted to see the amount of rain in all these ball games. The Giants and Cowboys game, there was a lot of rain in Cincinnati and Cleveland's ball game. And, this is week 1 of NFL. So, yeah, listen, we'll talk about some of the games today. And some of the games have definitely changed and, it kind of surprised some people. But don't get to work, that's just the nature of football. And I just don't I just don't want to get overworked up for, okay, well, the Bengals lost, so we're going to, head our heads down and say, oh, well, we're going to focus on next year's season. Or, because, the Raiders beat the Broncos, the Raiders are, favored to win the AFC West, because none of that's true. But we will talk about some overrated, some underrated scenarios yesterday. We'll talk about the Cincinnati Reds, who avoided a sweep against the Cardinals over this weekend. And I got to say, they're fighting to stay alive in the postseason. Okay. Game and a half back in the wild card. They have today off. They will begin a 3-game series against the Detroit Tigers on the road coming up tomorrow. So we'll talk about that mainly tomorrow. But, hey, we got Hunter Green. We got Nick. I got Hunter Green, Joey Votto, and Jonathan India back. So stay tuned. We got a 2-hour program, a little bit of everything to talk about here on this Monday afternoon, dedication to 9/11. If you guys are watching us on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter page, thank you. Hit that like button. Hit that share button, share it with your friend. Let us know that we're live right now. Leave a comment, get involved in the conversations. I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think of week 1 of the NFL? Okay. If you guys are listening to us on our audio platforms, we thank you. Be sure to download every episode, and leave a review. You could also check us out on our website at www.tncsportstalkshow.com. That is www.tncsportstalkshow.com. sportstalkshow.com, where you can get all the blogs, all the videos, all the audio platforms. Everything is on there. If you want to become a guest on our show down the road, email us, contact us through our website. That is www.tncsportstalkshow.com. All right, let's take our first time out of the afternoon. Come on back, talk some more sports. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, 5:24 here on the program. And our program is given to you thanks to StreamYard Studios, where you could create podcasts, videos, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct your own interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. Every episode is uploaded through StreamYard. It's recorded live. All that has how we could distribute, download the recordings and uploaded audio style. Check it out. I really recommend checking it out. I mean, I've been using StreamYard since day one, which is actually 2 years ago, over 2 years ago that I started this show. I remember I was at my dining table. I invited a former co-host, Justin, to talk wrestling, to talk sports and all that fun stuff. And it grew from there. And look where we're at today. Kind of just take a step back and enjoy that. Yeah. All right. So I want to apologize, you guys, because football, the predictions, and it didn't really go as well as planned. I made our prediction in the NFC, went through every team in the AFC East, and then lack of episodes didn't fill in the rest of the division in time. So I kind of want to just share with you real quick before we get into week one, the predictions I had. I had the Raiders losing week one, Chargers beating the Dolphins, obviously Detroit beating. I was trying to be as honest as possible, right? Not going to change anything. What's interesting, and I was just going to share this here, filling it out, just, in the NFC, I think I had it posted. I had the Eagles finishing in the first seed, followed by the Saints in the second, the Seahawks in the third, and the Packers in the fourth seed. And then I had the Cowboys, the 49ers, and the New York Giants as the three wildcard teams to enter in. In the AFC, a little interesting thing that I had, the Jaguars somehow finished off and the number one seed for me, finishing 13-4 on the year in the South, followed by Kansas City at number 2, Cincinnati number 3. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. Jacksonville. I got Jacksonville finishing off number 1 seed, the Bengals finishing off number 2 seed, followed by the Kansas City Chiefs and then the Buffalo Bills. Then I had Baltimore Ravens, and then the New York Jets and the Los Angeles Chargers in the wild card. I will be posting that up in a blog hopefully a little later on this week. I've been catching up a couple of things, but boy, my predictions have already went astray because I lost the Kansas City Chiefs and the Lions game back on Thursday. I chose the Panthers and the Falcons won. Ravens beat the Texans. Browns beat the Bengals. Jaguars beat the Colts. And I was thinking, I was like, this is an interesting note. I was reading some of the stats because I can't get to every game. Do you know that C.J. Stroud, the quarterback for the Houston Texans, made history by catching his very first NFL career pass? I thought that was funny. I was watching the highlights. If you guys didn't catch it on NFL.com or on Twitter, where he was throwing, he was getting ready to throw the ball. Okay, this was early on in the first quarter, and it got deflected, and he ended up recovering his deflection from the attempted pass. C.J. Stroud caught his very own very first NFL career pass. Now, it didn't go for any gain or any losses, so it's not a win, not a loss here, but I just thought that was interesting. The only other quarterback to do so in NFL history is Brett Favre. So, I mean, the Texans did end up losing. Let me see here, against the Ravens, 25-9. But, and listen, and here's the other thing, Anthony Richardson, right? Quarterback for the Colts, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. Unfortunately, they all picked up losses, but, I don't know. There's a lot of still missing pieces for all three of those ball clubs. When what fears me the most about these three quarterbacks is because I think, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and even C.J. Stroud are really talented guys. And I think that they do fit in the league, although it may take them a few years. My worries are, can each team then find pieces to kind of offset and make their build a team around their quarterback? Houston Texans they got two players for the price of one at this year's draft. And yet they still have a lot of missing pieces to be contenders against a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. Now in 3 to 5 years, the question is still there. Are the Texans going to continue to make that forward progress, to make the right choices to better and improve their team so that they can be contenders? And here's another thing that I was just thinking of just now is that the South has always been underlooked. All right. When was the last time actually I remember that a South team in the AFC was good enough to be in the number 1, number 2 seed in the postseason had to be dated back to Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, there was a couple good 10-game winning seasons for the Titans, and maybe every once in a while you get a fluke team out of the Jaguars or Texans to find a way to make it to the postseason. But there are nothing to talk about considering consistency, unless it was, like I said, Peyton Manning and the Colts. So I feel like the South has always been overlooked, and this is where the making sense of my AFC predictions slide right in, because Trevor Lawrence, he's only growing. He was exposed last year. Look at what he was capable of doing last year, taking his team and losing. I mean, yeah, he lost against the Kansas City Chiefs, but hey, Kansas City is one of the better teams in the AFC, nonetheless in the NFL. Don't expect a team like Trevor Lawrence, who are still growing, and I don't even think people expected them to be in the divisional game. I don't think anyone expected, maybe unless you're in Jacksonville or Miami alone, expected to beat the Chargers in the wild card weekend, game. So who knows? Who knows? And this is part of that whole anything could happen in the NFL. Talking about anything that can happen, man. Let's not hit the panic button quite yet, but if you talk about the Cleveland Browns beating up the Cincinnati Bengals 24-3, almost felt like Andy Dalton was back at quarterback. Don't forget Giovanni Bernard. It's nothing too much. We know what Joe Burrow can and cannot do during the regular season, right? And especially in Cleveland. Yeah, he's had a bad streak in Cleveland. Okay, it's given. What concerned me about yesterday's game was a few things, and I'm going to save Joe Burrow to the end. I think the first and foremost, it was the one thing that we coming into the season was paying attention to, and that was the defensive backfield. Now, listen, we could sit here and point fingers at the weather. We could sit here and point fingers that we weren't ready, blah, blah, blah. That's a bunch of baloney. Okay. But my point that I'm wanting to make is that in the offseason, if there was a key element that we actually had to be concerned about this year, heading into the season, I think we had to be worried about our defense. And when I say be worried about our defense, is that we lost not one, not two, but three key players that we couldn't sign. This is not the same Bengals team that we saw last year or even 2 years ago when they went to the postseason. They're younger, they're inexperienced. I mean, I think the talent is there. I want to say the talent is there. You know, and I saw on social media that, we were penny pinching. Therefore, that's why we didn't really re-sign anyone. No, I think what ended up happening, because we did, let's celebrate the fact that we finally got Joe Burrow on a new contract deal. But I think we had to open up some salary cap because we really did not know exactly how much he was going to cost. And is it worth keeping Eli Apple and Jesse Bates and T. Higgins, I guess not T. Higgins, but is it worth keeping 5 or 6 guys if we can't give Joe Burrow the money or the contract that he so desperately wants? And Joe Burrow says, hey, he comes on social media and he says, hey, listen, I want to be a Bengals for life. Great. And he's willing to take a pay cut, probably. I don't know. I'm not Joe Burrow. I'm not going to try to analyze that. Okay, I haven't talked to him one-on-one, and until I do, and he tells me to my face saying, hey, I'm willing to take a pay cut to, just like, Patrick Mahomes, who went out before the season and said, hey, listen, I'd rather share the wealth and take a pay cut so that my other players, because and it's not just about me. I'm not the only one playing this game. I'm not the only one taking this team to the Super Bowl. We have Travis Kelce here. We have, you had Tyreek Hill. You have all these players. You have my offensive line you got to pay. So, he took a pay cut, which I applaud. I give a round of applause to Patrick Mahomes. I respect him that much more. Joe Burrow wants to stay in Cincinnati. He's worked out a deal. Apparently now he's the highest paying contract. I think maybe there's a lot of expectations. Hey, you got paid, now you can play. One of the concerns that you run in to this, situation when you don't have a top tier, defense anymore, is that you got to have more performance out of your quarterback. And let's not forget about the injury that he already sustained at, first day of practice. One of my, let's talk about conspiracies. If we, show Shell here, was he 100% yesterday? And that's where I question the motives, to the point where, listen, they weren't going to win the game. We knew late in the fourth quarter. So guess what? Try to analyze this. Why continue putting your quarterback out there in conditions that are not going to benefit him at a game that you're not going to be able to come back at? Why continue to put him out there? I thought putting Jake Browning in was good for the Bengals, and you guys could look at it however you guys please to do so, but I thought it was a good idea to bring Jake Browning in. All right, I know Joe Burrow had a tough game. He wasn't finding his footing. He wasn't, nothing was going the Bengals' way offensively. And I am concerned. Did he come back 100%? It goes back to me saying this leading up to the game, was that we still don't, people are saying that the status of his calf injury is that he's good to go. Well, this could take weeks. He could easily re-aggravate it. And now we could rely on Jake Browning. And he could actually injure this calf and be gone for a lot longer period of time. Well, now, the other thing is too, is that, statistically, he doesn't hold his end, his end up on the bargain when it comes down to the Browns. And that's just a given fact. He tried. I hope that it doesn't come back to cost him any, because now we have to kind of reset the clock and say, all right, we got the Ravens at home this weekend. And if that meant that Burrow did not play Sunday so that we could make sure that maybe, if he was at 95, 96% heading into, this last weekend's game against the Browns, and that meant that, hey, if he sat out so he could be 100% against the Ravens that extra week, that's fine. But I think there has to be an understanding here as a fan. One, we have a young, unexperienced defense that is going to give up points. We know that. We also got to understand that, I saw good things out of our offensive line. It was a crappy weather. We got to get offensive momentum going, and hopefully we could do it with better weather conditions, because it's supposed to be nice outside at Paycor Stadium this weekend. Hopefully it stays that way. But you're going up against Lamar Jackson. You're going up against, the Baltimore Ravens, who have things locked and set, and they just got done beating the Texans 25-9. So if you want to consider this a warm-up matchup, great. My concern is heading into this number one game already on a Monday is that Joe, what is the health status for Joe Burrow? How much did yesterday's game in the weather knock him down? So I guess time will see. But it was definitely not the most interesting game to watch. And kind of by that time it was halftime, I was wanting to turn it. All right, let's kind of talk about let's continue to talk about the week one of the NFL heading to the bottom of the hour right here. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, 5:44 on a 2-hour program, taking guys up until 7 o'clock on this fine September 11th Monday afternoon, as we also get ready for, I would say, a pretty interesting matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. And I know that there's a lot of hype and a lot of talk heading into this, and I just sneezed, and now my airways are kind of cleared up, and man, anyways, I just don't want it to run or bleed or anything like that. But you know what? All right, so it's going to be Josh Allen taking on Aaron Rodgers. And there's a lot of hype talking about this game. There's a lot of hype coming into the season for both teams. The Buffalo Bills are one of the teams that are still expected to remain at the top of their division. Okay? Just like the Kansas City Chiefs, I think until the Chargers or the Raiders or even the Broncos can prove the NFL world wrong and knock off the Kansas City Chiefs, it's like betting against Tom Brady. You just don't do it. It's like betting against the Dodgers. You take them whenever you get a chance, as far as possible, until you really can believe that they cannot make it over that hump no more. And so when it comes down to the Bills, you got Tua Tagovailoa, and I think that they've gotten the Dolphins have gotten better this year with Tyreek Hill and a couple other decent players that they've added on. And the way that they performed yesterday against the Chargers, I was expecting the Chargers to walk away with the victory. As a matter of fact, I had them walking away with the victory. And it was a back and forth shootout to the point where the Dolphins only won by 2 points. The Patriots ended up losing to the Eagles 25-20. And now we're coming down to Monday Night Football, where there should be a winner between the Bills and the Jets. Josh Allen says, hey, I know that I have to make changes in myself in order to better my team. That I know I can't be the same quarterback I was 2-3 years ago. And if my goal is to help the team finally win a Super Bowl. So in order to do that, he has to know he understands that he has to make changes. It's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. So we will see here tonight if he's going to make the necessary changes. I don't know what the weather looks like at MetLife Stadium tonight, but as far as what I saw last night, it was piss pouring rain, and the Cowboys somehow found a way to not just beat the Giants, but annihilate the Giants. Let's talk about that in a second. Let's get back to that. On the other hand of the table, we had the New York Jets. Obviously, you can't go back to back with the Giants and the Jets losing at home in week 1, at least not in that embarrassing fashion. I think that when you locked in, Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley and blah blah with the Giants, you just can't afford to lose. Can't afford to lose 2 nights in a row. So the Jets are having a chance to redeem New York's faith in a New York team. And they have Aaron Rodgers behind the realm. Hey, Aaron Rodgers knows what it's like to play in weather conditions. He's done it for so long in Green Bay. And so coming into tonight, we may very well see what type of Jets team, how serious can we take the Jets? Are they a contenders team? I know Aaron Rodgers signed a 2-3 year deal with the organization, but I'm sure that they want to we have to improve this year. We can't waste any opportunity with Aaron Rodgers. And so we're going to find out that even though the Jets are all invested, bought in, sold out for Aaron Rodgers, is Aaron Rodgers that good to make a difference in a team that was not a playoff contender last year? Remember, Aaron Rodgers did not make it to the playoffs last season after losing their final game of the year against the Detroit Lions. So there are flaws in Aaron Rodgers. He's not perfect. And that's what makes tonight an interesting game. Check it out tonight. The Buffalo Bills, New York Jets, exciting game to watch. And hopefully we learn a lot about these two teams. Now, another thing is, we go talk about the Giants and the Cowboys last night. And there was a couple of teams out there that really made a statement. The Dallas Cowboys claim that they made an impact, that they sent a message to the NFC. They sent a message to the NFC East. They sent a message to the NFL saying, we're a serious team. We not only want to win this year, but we will win this year. And so, I like that. I like the fire that is being lit under a couple of these teams. They're not the only team that sent a message out. San Francisco annihilated Pittsburgh. If San Francisco sent a message out yesterday saying that, hey, we have Brock Purdy after Jimmy Garoppolo, after Trey Lance, we have our quarterback. We also have Christian McCaffrey. We also have Debo. And we're here to win too. The Eagles did win yesterday in New England. So, and listen, if you want to consider that it was a statement that was being said when Cleveland beat Cincinnati, I say if Cleveland wants to be taken seriously, then Cleveland needs to go into Monday night against Pittsburgh on the road and handle business again. And then I would almost consider saying, hey, all right, Deshaun Watson, Cleveland Browns, maybe your team coming after the AFC North. But does that mean that the Dallas Cowboys are just the top-notch team? Are they favored to win the Super Bowl? I mean, Dak Prescott had a subpar game yesterday. Let's not remind people. Brock Purdy had a better game than Dak. Jordan Love had a better game, didn't have all his receivers at hand, and still put up 38 points against the Bears. Now, given, hey, the Bears aren't a great team. You know, a quarterback that really impressed me yesterday had to be Tua Tagovailoa. Now, I don't know if the Dolphins are contender teams this year or not, but for a guy who's probably been overlooked because of his concussions and his injuries and the drama, that wasn't always necessarily his fault last season. And I'd say it was time to put it up. But he really stepped up to the plate, and he performed in Los Angeles. If I had to choose a game that was probably a game of the week in my book, it was Miami and the Chargers. That was just a throw-out battle. I still think, listen, there is an expectation for the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers that they have to be good. And making these statements and now proclaiming that you're putting the team, NFL league on notice, I think now just ups that ante. And if the Cowboys go on and lose this coming up week, boy, I tell you, we have some problems. Trevor Lawrence looks comfortable. Deshaun Watson's also looking pretty locked in, set at quarterback. Atlanta Falcons, I think, surprised a lot of people, I think, in winning their first game of the season. Let me see here. I think the Rams, another impressive win. I think a win that we did not expect for the Rams to do or to have, to go into Seattle, to beat Geno Smith and Pete Carroll in week 1, 30-13. Can't say that wasn't impressive. Overall, I think we can say we go back to Thursday night when the Lions beat the Chiefs, and we say that this week just shows that you can predict everything you want to predict. Okay? Throw away the excuses of the weathers or the play calling. It's the NFL. It is football. You play in the snow. Things happen. Be able to adjust. You know why the Bengals didn't win? You know why the Giants didn't win? Because they didn't adjust offensively. If you know the ball is going to be slippery, or if you know that there's going to be more trouble in the passing game, and you sit here and say, all right, well, what do? We have to adjust, and we have to play towards the run game. And defensively, they're making the adjustment and saying, all right, their defense is going to adjust to our run game, and they're going to blitz, and they're going to bring pressure. Well, we have to adjust to that. So it's a lot of adjusting, and these two teams did not walk away with the win. And as a matter of fact, they got embarrassed, I would say. Because if I'm a Bengal fan right now, I'm pretty embarrassed how badly. It's not the fact that we lost, it was just how badly we lost. How we showed nothing after all the hype that people are leading us into the season. We've shown nothing for it. Week 1 concludes tonight. Monday Night Football, Bills, Jets. Excited for the final game of the week 1. We'll jump into week 2. You know what is also exciting to talk about? Because it wasn't all bad news yesterday. Kentucky Wildcats beat Eastern Kentucky 28-17. Cincinnati beat Pittsburgh 27-21, went to 2-0 on the record. And they play one more game before heading into, they actually play back at home here at Nipper Stadium against Miami, Ohio, and then they will be starting their Big 12 conference play, which gets me a bit worried, but we have time to talk about that. Biggest outcome of yesterday's standings overall, this past week and overall in general, had to be the Texas Longhorns beating the Alabama Crimson Tide. 34-24, jumped Texas up to number 4 in the AP top 25, dropped Alabama down to 10. Can Alabama climb back up the 25 rankings? Because right now it looks pretty solid. We'll talk a little bit about that in hour number 2. Hour number 2, we'll talk about the Cincinnati Reds. As yet, they're on a road trip here. The home series, it wasn't too fabulous. A couple guys returning back that would also help to the organization. We'll talk about that here in hour number 2. We'll also talk about Monday Night Raw. We want to give our wishes out to Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who had to undergo emergency surgery. So our prayers go out to him and his family. Monday Night Raw is tonight. And so we'll talk about what is going on, expect to be on Monday Night Raw. Plus, the conversation CM Punk always seems to be in the middle of. The report of, is CM Punk even wanted or warranted back in the WWE? Let's open up hour number 2 with some Major League Baseball. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, hour number 2 here, given to you thanks to Spreaker. From iHeartRadio, Spreaker can upload podcasts to all major distributions, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. Be able to upload your own podcast, view analytics, and be able to monetize an affordable income. Check out their free option today at Spreaker.com. You know, in hour number 2, like I said, we want to just take the moment and remember 9/11. You know, it's interesting, stories about 9/11 and not just, you know, it's the day that, you know, life's still getting a chance to be off. You know, very big day for sports. You know, games were canceled. Remember when, you know, Friday night SmackDown, or I think it was like on Tuesday or Thursday nights. Anyways, they had a special ceremony. Football, when baseball returned, it was a very big deal. And, you know, sports is one of those nonverbal, you know, gatherings that people just, you can forget about everything that is going on, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, wrestling, hockey, whatever sport it is that you're into, soccer, you know, football, you know, the football, whatever you want to say. I apologize. Anyways, it is a time for people to forget about everything that's going on in the world. Come together, and whether you're rooting for one team and you have a couple of friends that are rooting for 2 separate teams, whatever the case may be, it's just a time to come together and enjoy and celebrate life and celebrate the fun part that is everything that's fun is provided. So, you know, when we brought back sports, I don't think there was, you know, no one knew how we were going to come out, you know, of this, but all we knew is that we relied on baseball. We relied on football. We relied on wrestling, stuff like that to keep us going because of everything that took place. So those were definitely touching moments. All right, let's get down into business. Before we talk about more sports, gotta do my due diligence, a little bit of homework, a little bit of TLC here. Talk about a website called Aspire and Glow. Actually, local business right down the street from where I'm actually at. It's actually located in Crescent Springs, Kentucky. If you guys are in the Ohio, Indiana, or Kentucky area, and you guys, I would invite you guys out to come check out Aspire and Glow. It's off of the 75 freeway. It's down by off of Buttermilk, the exit, and it's down by La Rosa's across the street from Walgreens. Recently opened up a web page. You can follow him on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, or TikTok, excuse me. Well, he has Aspire and Glow carries a lot of product items such as backpack, hoodies, jackets, shoulder bags, blankets, bracelets, necklaces, and more. Perfect holiday season's coming up. He specializes in tie-dye t-shirts, tie-dye shoulder bags. Also has a couple of great new unique features that you probably just have to stop by the store to see for yourself. Everything is sentimental. Everything you can find at affordable prices that you probably can't beat anywhere else. Recommend checking out Aspire and Glow. If you guys are not in the area, recommend checking out the website by heading on over to www.aspire-glow.com. That is www.aspire-glow.com. They also have a current sale going on the website where you can save 25% with using promo code 25 bracelets on any of their bracelets throughout the month of September. Is buy one get one 25% off with promo code 25. That's 25, and then bracelets BRACELETS. Get yours today at Aspire and Glow, aspire-glow.com. And if you guys stop by the store, tell them that Justin sent you. He'll be able to hook you guys up with a nice, pretty deal. Good guy. So, still growing that website as much needed here. All right, well, let's get into the Cincinnati Reds as they avoided a sweep. And the way they won yesterday almost indicated that, hey, probably shouldn't have been swept or even lost the series against the St. Louis Cardinals. It's tough, gotta tell you. Especially when there is expectations of winning games, especially with how close the season lasts. Listen, we're just a game and a half out of a wild card opportunity as of today. If you look at it, Phillies lost the first game to the Braves. They have a doubleheader today to 10-8. Atlanta, is the first team to clinch a playoff spot. So congratulations to the Atlanta Braves. Following up, maybe the Los Angeles Dodgers coming out next, followed by the Milwaukee Brewers. Philadelphia has that top spot in the wild card as of right now. Chicago Cubs are about 2 games into the wild card, and then it's a nice, tight, close race. Arizona, Miami is a half a game back. San Francisco and Cincinnati is a game and a half back, and the Padres are 8 games back. What was nice out of yesterday's victory is that we saw Hunter Green make his return, as Hunter Green, Joey Votto, and Jonathan India made their return to the roster this weekend from injuries, which are key components to if we are going to really make this big push to October baseball. We're going to need everyone on their A game. I don't know what the story is going to be for Joey Votto after the season. I can only assume that he's hanging the boots up for good. Listen, however the season goes out, if the Reds can get back to the postseason, even if they don't win, a picture perfect world is, Reds go on and win the World Series. I know that's unethical, but if you are Cincinnati, if you're Cincinnati, you can't sit here. You went out to get Harrison Bader, Hunter Renfroe. You added, Hunter Green back to the lineup. You got Joey Votto, Jonathan India, and then plus, a long group of young guys. You just can't fold over quite yet. And I know that, hey, St. Louis didn't work the way we wanted it to work. We get one more doing with them coming up here at the end of the season in St. Louis, and it may come down to those final 3 games. Now, and I know we don't face Arizona, we don't face San Francisco, we don't face Chicago, and we don't face Miami. That was that's done and said. So if we're going to win, we need to take matters in our own hand and just win the games that we are facing. We're going to have a 3-game series against Detroit on the road. And I don't see why we can't come away 2 of 3, but we can't drop another series for the remainder of the season. But I think there is still a sense of urgency that the Cincinnati Reds just continue fighting, because you never know what happens at the end. Texas was leading the AL West for such the longest time throughout the year. It reminds me of the Mets last year, where the Mets ended up winning or ended up leading the NL East throughout the entire season. The Braves come in the last weekend, and in a series weekend, I remember calling the game on this channel, calling the game where the Braves won and they leaped into first place at the very last second. And so, anything can be said and done in the month of September. We saw 2 years ago St. Louis make a 17-game win streak. Not necessarily a win streak, but they had a 17-game winning month in September that bolstered them into the postseason. Remember when Cincinnati was in that hunt and then they got knocked out by the Cardinals? 74-71. We talk about goals, and maybe I'm jumping a bit too far ahead at this moment, but I'm thinking of a goal such as, wouldn't it be nice to have this season above 500 baseball? Which means you have to win at least 7 more games in the season to have a 500 year. I think, now we could sit here and talk about, Noelvi Marte suffered a face contusion. He got hit with the ball after fielding a grounder from Ellie De La Cruz yesterday during practice. Got cut open. He may be scratched for a few days. But there is that still sense of urgency between the young guys, between the older guys, to come together for the last 3 weeks of the 4 weeks of the season and say, hey, listen, let's give it all we got. We're not going to win every game. Let's try not to lose every series and give ourselves, if we could win every series here on out and we still don't make it to the postseason, hey, we tried. And I'm okay with that. So that's how the NL playoff race is looking at right now. The AL playoff race right now, Baltimore's leading it at number 1 seed. Houston's following right behind them. Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Toronto, and Seattle has the wild card. Texas are a half a game back, and they're just kind of slowly itching themselves out. Boston's a solid 6 games back, and New York is a solid 8 games back. Like I said, you still got a bit of time left within a couple of weeks, but that's going to start winding down rapidly. But I got to tell you, it is, this is what September baseball is about, right? I think we've said this plenty of times. Games to watch tonight, Arizona, New York, we want to stay close. Not necessarily in the division. I think, as far as division-wise, we're out of the picture, but Miami's over in Milwaukee, and you want them to lose, because I think what hurts is that we have an off day today because we're traveling to Detroit. Cleveland's in San Francisco, the Padres and the Dodgers. I'm not necessarily worried about the Padres and Dodgers late tonight. It's more what's Arizona's doing, what San Francisco's doing, and what Miami's doing. Because that's really going to bolster our momentum heading into this week's series. Which, by the way, like I said, it's against the Detroit Tigers, who are 66 and 77. They should have an easy win, hopefully, at the end of things. All right, let's take a break. When we come on back, I want to talk about Mike Trout. The Angels made a statement, or there's rumors that the Angels are open in dealing Mike Trout this offseason if he comes to talks about, if he ends up requesting a trade. And this, honestly, I don't know if the Reds even have a chance at Mike Trout, but they're, if Mike Trout becomes open, what are the possibilities and what does it look like for the market for Trout, for the remainder of the 29 of the teams? We'll talk about that coming up next. You guys are listening to The Throwing on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All righty. I'd like to take this time to give a big shout out to Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. All the music coming back from break, going into break, is given to you thanks to Epidemic Sound. Also want to give a big shout out to Canva. Canva is a platform online that you can create videos, presentations, any pop-ups of art that you see on the screen, the commercial breaks that we have incorporated into our program. It's given to you thanks to Canva. Great. It's all two-in-one. They're really very creative in what they use. So I want to give a big shout out to Canva in that sense for providing the platform that we can use to be able to post those type of stuff up on our programs, videos, whatever you want to call it, etc. So thank you to Canva and Epidemic Sound. All right, continuing hour number 2 as we get ready for Monday Night Football, Bills, Jets, right? Aaron Rodgers taking on Josh Allen. We'll also talk a little bit in this bottom half of hour number 2 about Monday Night Raw, and it's something that came across my Facebook page during the break that I thought was interesting, was that this is officially the last Raw, Monday Night Raw, that is going to close out the McMahon's era. Obviously, earlier this year, actually the day after WrestleMania, it was announced that WWE was selling itself to Endeavors, which is, was going to create a brand called TKO that's going to kind of jointly combine UFC and WWE together. Well, the merge has been over the last couple months, and officially, as of tomorrow, Tuesday, September 12th, the McMahon family will not be the sole owners of WWE anymore. Okay, the merge will be complete as of tomorrow. So tonight on Monday Night Raw, the big question that popped up was if we possibly would see the McMahon family for one last time. We talk about generations, decades of wrestling provided from the WWE under the only ownership in the McMahon family. We talk about Vince McMahon, we talk about Linda, Stephanie, Shane, even Hunter, part of that McMahon family there. And how much that the WWE has not only grown itself as a company, okay, and as a wrestling company, treading a lot of the the boundaries and waters of what it used to be. Crossing a lot of boundaries, taking those leaps of faith, and some of them worked out, some of them not, dealt with all the allegations, all the lawsuits, the unfortunate passings of top tier talents, and officially selling it to endeavors. And we really don't know the direction that the WWE is going to go down in. It could go down into a path of success with endeavors, which I honestly do see. It's going to take some getting used to here. But I can see the WWE having its own success with some changes. And then, or it could be an utter failure. I think just time will tell. So tonight, it's going to be, we'll kind of figure out exactly what what will happen under the last episode solely owned by the McMahon family. So we'll see. And, a lot of people have it out saying, oh, well, McMahon's pulling the strings on Raw. He's changing everything. And you know what? I don't know. Booking is booking, and I hope if that's the case, and if he's doing as terrible as a job as he says, well, guess what? People are still watching the product. I'm still, I watch the product here and there. I don't watch it as much as I used to, but I still watch the product, and it's still a global phenomenon. People still talk about it on a daily basis. So, I mean, what can I say? So that was just something interesting that came across my Facebook page earlier during the break. Another thing that also came across my page was earlier today was that there's some sort of deal, not deal, but negative deal between Fox and WWE. I'm gonna have to look into that because, they're always changing. I don't know. This also may change the network and how the network's presumed. WWE is on Peacock. Will they continue to be on Peacock? We may not see something today, tomorrow, next month, but we can for sure see something over a period of time because, UFC does everything on pay-per-views. Does WWE go back to pay-per-views or premium lives, however you want to call it, where you have to pay for the subscription of that pay-per-view or that premium live event, which if that's the case, I feel like you'll lose a lot of people, a lot of fans from watching the product. And this year, I think WWE has broken some really cool records in great forward progress of where the company is headed. So, like I said, time will tell. Time will tell itself. Anyways, so the Angels, on the other hand, we're at the end of the season where the teams who don't necessarily make it to the postseason are kind of shutting their top players down. Maybe Miguel Cabrera, Severino got hurt over this past weekend. There's even reports that Manny Machado with the Padres may get shut down a bit early. Talking about Mike Trout being shut down early, Shohei Ohtani being shut down early. Well, there's a couple of big lurking questions heading into this offseason, especially around the Los Angeles Angels, considering one of the teams that are not in the postseason, they may be making a big splash. Now, we remember that the Angels this year have added some really top-tier players, especially towards the trade deadline, to help their chances at a postseason. Well, midway through August, obviously things kind of just crumbled apart, and they just slowly crept away and create a space at a postseason run. And they decided, hey, all right, before September, we're going to empty out our banks, get rid of everyone. Hopefully they could benefit a team that is contending, and it's in hopes so we could stay under the luxury tax threshold. And so the Angels gutted their team, And this could be a come back to haunt them in the offseason, or could be a blessing in disguise. One of the big reasons why they also built so high up was because they wanted to convince, this year was the year that the Angels needed to convince either Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout that this was a team that they would want to be on long term. That this was a team that's making forward progress to go to the postseason. And obviously, they had a good run. And I feel like every year, the Angels are, making a decent run for the first 3-4 months of the season. And then at the back end, they crumble and they disappear. They fall off the planet of the earth. Well, we know Shohei Ohtani is not coming back. I don't think Shohei Ohtani is coming back in the Angels uniform. And if he signs a contract extension, he deserves, first of all, both Ohtani and Mike Trout deserve to be, get paid. I think Mike Trout he's a bit more questionable because he's been in the league a bit longer. But when you talk about a prime player like Ohtani, like I said, you can't compare this kid to anybody on the roster or anybody playing in Major League Baseball today, a decade ago, 5 decades ago. You can't even compare Ohtani to Babe Ruth, which is, arguably, Mickey Mantle. There's just no comparisons. He's on a different atmosphere when you compare him to some of the legends. So when we circle back is what's going to happen this offseason. I'm pretty confident Shohei Ohtani is going to go to a team, because he didn't come from Japan just to play for the Angels in a red and white uniform for his entire career. He's going to go to a team that is, one, ready to win, the Dodgers, and then 2, I think has the most money. Dodgers, Yankees, possibly. I don't think the Phillies will be in the contingency. Maybe Red Sox, possibly. But if a team is going to grab Ohtani, the attention span, okay, it has to be, 1, you have to be a World Series contender now. And 2, you have to have the money. Now, think of teams that are already maybe out of the question. Well, Atlanta Braves, I think they're locked up. They have all their players set for the next 4 or 5 years, right? Throughout 30-30. And they've kind of kept them all young and going. Well, the Dodgers, I think, is the only team that has the money, that has the availability to squeeze them in, and that could possibly use a two-way player. Now, does that mean the Dodgers go to the World Series and win the World Series each and every year? Absolutely not. I mean, there's only time will tell. But, who can beat the Dodgers at this moment? Does the Yankees beat the Dodgers at this moment? Probably. Could be. Possibly contenders in this contract deal. Who else could really cough up the money? And when let's can the Reds cough up the money? Let's ask us that question first. I don't think the Reds could cough up that money. They've invested in the Hunter Green, and I think that's just kind of where they're just going to stick at. Plus, they have this process that they've believed in since day one, and so moving in, that's what they're going to stick with. But just imagine what it's going to be like to have a two-way player at the top of your free agent market coming into the offseason this year. Are a lot of teams, it would be hard to say if you can at least get your name in the conversation as rumors saying, hey, there is an interest. And I'm not talking about, Bob Nightingale from, ESPN reporter, whatever, is reporting that there was a rumor that the Castellinis had this conversation, eating dinner one night, drunk off their asses, saying, hey, we're going to go make a run at Ohtani. I'm not talking about that. Talking about a team that if you can actually sit here and throw out a number and throw out a possible contract offer to Shohei Ohtani that, hey, we want you on our team. We'll pay you this X dollar amount to come play for us. Those are going to be legit teams. But now on top of that, if Mike Trout is available and listen, and here's the other thing, that changes the entire free agent market on top of what Ohtani provides. Because I think Trout still is capable of playing at the level and at the standard he wants to play at. He is still a top tier talent. He's still one of the greats of this time frame. I believe he's better than Bryce Harper. The way he carries himself, the way on and off the field, the work ethic he puts in, and he's not afraid to hide it. He's not afraid to have a bad day. And I just think he lacks the motivation because obviously his ball club isn't winning. So if Mike Trout says, listen, Angel fans, I love you guys. I wish I could stay here for the remainder of my career, but I would like to win or be on an organization that has an opportunity to play in October. And unfortunately, nothing against the Angels organization. We're not winning. And okay, if money is involved, great. Then there has to, what does the market look like with Trout on the field, on the table? Does the Dodgers have enough to afford Ohtani and Trout in the same conversation? Because now we're not just, hey, bringing someone in who you don't really know, and now you just got two players. You got to find, they're going to be asking for a ton of money, and you're going to probably want to lock them up for a 5, 7, 10-year deal. So if you look at the market for Mike Trout, I think obviously the first question that has to come down to is, does he stay on the West Coast? And if he stays on the West Coast, I could see him teaming up with either the Dodgers or the Padres. And I just don't know the atmosphere that San Diego has to offer. And if they do, and I think if, let's say, hypothetically, Padres could sign them, and this would all be on a ticking time basis, because it's not just about signing him, it's about picking up his contract. Would the Padres be willing, because Juan Soto's contract's coming up, either you got to make a move or you got to depart ways. So what are the Padres going to do? Are the Padres going to sign Juan Soto for that long-term deal, keep Juan Soto, keep Manny Machado, keep, Fernando Tatis all bundled up together and say, all right, you know what? This year was a fluke. We're going to go into next year and we'll have a better year. Or do you say, all right, you know what? Mike Trout will probably look better in the Padres uniform. Let's trade some of whatever we have left of our farm system up north to Riverside. And let's bring Trout down here. Juan Soto, I just can't work out a deal with you. And if I can, you're going to have to take a pay cut. Is that worth it? I don't think so. Dodgers, I think the Dodgers go do whatever they want to do. Trout works either way. I just think, Dodgers kind of are, are in that reset mode. And it's amazing to say that, hey, you could be on a rebuild mode and still be as successful as Los Angeles is. But, so the Dodgers never off the table. Yankees, I don't think Trout will go over to the Yankees. I think they're stacked as is. And then maybe possibly Phillies. Who to tell? But, let's look at the question here on the Cincinnati side. Realistically, if we can afford Shohei or Mike Trout, I think Mike Trout will be more better suit for us, although he's going to probably be more of a DH, designated hitter. And the problem that I have with that is that if he's a DH, because Drake Fraley out and left, you have Fraley out and left. He's a left-handed batter. You have Friedel out there. He's a left-handed batter. Benson, I don't know if he's returning next year. And Fairchild in center, which is a right-hander batter. So Trout does fit in the outfield in Cincinnati. The problem I have, I just don't see them making the effort. There's too invested into the younger guys to sit here and say, all right, let me make a authentic offer. And is Trout worth the trade of, you're going to probably have to trade Ellie De La Cruz. I mean, maybe you are really stacked in the infield and you say, all right, let's Neovy Marte. Is he worth going over to, Los Angeles? Is it worth sending Christian Encarnacion Strand? And then I think the last thing that you would have to go back and ask yourself, if you are Reds looking interesting, seriously interested in looking into a Mike Trout deal, not just prospects, but is what we're giving up going to make up in the wins with Mike Trout in the roster? Because we need Mike Trout for 162 games. And even if he takes a load off the outfield, and maybe even if he doesn't, he slides on into the lineup as a DH. I don't know if that bat is solid enough to give you that extra few wins to get you over that hump. It could be good, could be a change in atmosphere. I don't know. Interesting conversations in the middle of September leading into October, leading into the offseason, to the big questions. But I guess, hey, one game at a time. All right, let's take our last break of the evening. When we come on back, we're going to talk about CM Punk. He always seems to make the news. This time, is it worth him coming back to the WWE? Let's open that conversation up when we come on back. You guys are listening to The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, bottom half of the program here. Monday Night Raw gets underway here in just a little over an hour, where Rhea Ripley will defend her women's championship against Raquel Rodriguez. And due to, I guess, and okay, so it's been a while since we talked about WWE. And so I guess Rhea and Raquel I was expecting for SummerSlam. Obviously that didn't happen. Trish and Becky expected for SummerSlam. That didn't happen. And so, we saw a nice main event last week on Raw between Becky and Zoe Starks. I mean, we're seeing some good in main events. Let me put it that way. Judgment Day's on top. I'm gonna have to really kind of just get back to you guys on WWE here later. But they're tonight, and like I said, I think the bigger question is, Endeavor is officially taking over as of tomorrow. The company TKO, which was created to combine World Wrestling Entertainment and UFC, will officially unite tomorrow. And the era of the McMahon family, the last episode that they would technically own, is tonight. So let's see how Raw will finish off, who and what will happen. And I'm going to say this, okay? Whether you guys like it or not, whether you guys think it's time or not, Vince McMahon and the McMahon family has been a huge part of our lives, not just it because of WWE, well, mainly because of WWE. But if it wasn't without them, especially Vince McMahon, some of the stuff that we see today probably wouldn't be possible. What we would probably see happen is another company step in and take control. And who knows where we will be at today in professional wrestling. Everything was territorial back in the day up until Vince McMahon started pushing that territorial space. And that means that Vince had to step outside his comfort zone. He had to make enemies. He started the Monday Night Wars because of growing Raw and pushing space and television deals and stuff that just wasn't, I think, heard of at the time. Okay. So when you look at WWE, look at where it came from today, a lot of it has to be thanks to Vince McMahon. It's either it's going to work or it's not going to work. When it comes down, WrestleMania was just a, fairy dust in the wind until he actually did it. It was either going to fail or wasn't going to fail. Guess what? It's probably one of the big, it's equivalent to the Super Bowl. I would honestly argue to say it's bigger than the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl, yeah, you get a sold out arena, you got a football game. Great. But WrestleMania is where everyone from across the globe comes to one place for not one, but now 2 nights. And this is not just 2 nights event. I mean, and I haven't heard about this whole week-long event that they used to do. I don't know how much they do it, but in the same town, it brings millions of dollars to a town, to a community that needs it. So, I mean, it's a phenomenon. It's growing still. We're learning to step outside our comfort. If you thought 30 years ago, stepping outside our comfort zone was unheard, was like unethical. Well, let's think of now. We're stepping outside our comfort zone. And guess what? I know we don't like to go international. I think it was an adjustment to a lot of us when we decided, hey, we're going to start doing these bigger shows, not in the States. But we were going to get there eventually. So let's see what happens tonight. We got to talk about CM Punk right after this quick ad. Alrighty, I got to talk about our good friends over there at Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. Go give them a subscribe to their YouTube channel. Also, be sure to follow them on all social media platforms at Armchair Booking Podcast, where Steve Barber and Dwaylon Davis sit down, records episodes, nothing but wrestling conversations. Their latest episode on the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast is Gunther Makes Intercontinental Title History. That was posted 3 days ago. It has 97 views. So go check out their latest video. Dwaylon is an encyclopedia when it comes down to wrestling knowledge. And Steve Barber, well, he has the looks. Also, go check out their individual podcasts as well. Dwaylon has a audio podcast called Intellectual Rockstar, as Steve also has a audio podcast out with Cubicle Chat. Be sure to follow them and check out what they have to say about professional wrestling. All right, this is where wrestling become, it seems like CM Punk always just makes the news, in my opinion. And you know what? I want to put this down to bed, So CM Punk got fired from Tony Khan and AEW just about a week ago. And there's already rumors in conversations about, well, it just make sense to bring CM Punk back to the WWE? Survivor Series is going to be in Chicago. WrestleMania is going to be in Philadelphia. I mean, this would be probably best for business, if you think of it, if the WWE could get some sort of deal done with CM Punk. And coming up to my mind instantly when I hear this news, I'm not a big fan of CM Punk coming back to the WWE. The drama that he had with AEW constantly, right, is the same amount of drama that he was starting up in WWE. It was just behind closed doors. It wasn't really known to the public as much as it was today. So would I like to see CM Punk have a run at WWE? I think so. I'm going to be honest with you. I truly believe that CM Punk could have a run in the WWE. But is it best for business? And you know what? I'm going to actually go on a limb and say it could be better for business. There would have to be a lot of controlled agreements if it comes down to this. Now, this isn't going to be a Vince McMahon decision. This isn't going to be a Hunter decision. I think morally, this is probably going to be an Endeavor's decision. And it all depends what type of relationship CM Punk had back in the day. And I think, and I know Endeavor doesn't really necessarily play around with this type of stuff either. It makes sense to have CM Punk in the ring in the WWE. I think you should make it short, simple, sweet if you do. I don't think he needs to get too deep into anything. My number one question is, what kind of feud are you going to have between Survivor Series and WrestleMania to highlight CM Punk? Cody Rhodes, maybe? But I don't know if if CM Punk is on the path to Cody Rhodes becoming champion again. Does CM Punk become champion again? We saw what happened last time. He walked out on the company, and I don't think you would want that again. Roman Reigns, he's definitely not someone to dethrone Roman. So realistically, if let's say Punk does come back to the WWE, which I can't say would be bad for business. I can't say I wouldn't like to see him at least on one positive run before he says, hey, let's hang it up. Who is he going to be facing throughout the duration? And what type of opponent can you see him facing at WrestleMania? What, John Cena again? I just don't. They're on two separate paths. I just don't see crossing anytime soon. I don't see CM Punk ending a career. I guess who is in the WWE right now that could possibly end Punk's career? Because it goes to the old saying in professional wrestling that when it's time for you to leave your boots in the ring, you go out laying on your back, at least 99% of the time. Okay, so what, Edge? Because it could very well be Edge's last run. But I wouldn't really necessarily say let's respark that fire, whatever fire that was. This is where I get stuck because I don't quite see a solution for this. Could it work? Could the WWE make it work? Of course they could. But my biggest concern is what type of drama does CM Punk bring backstage when he comes to WWE? There's a reason, they departed ways. Okay, they had their issues back a decade ago. AEW has their issues again, with CM Punk that's already known to the public. Who says CM Punk doesn't come back and start issues? And it just goes utterly wrong. I don't know. I think I'm lost in limbo when it comes down to this because I have mixed emotions. I would just stay, for me, if it was up to me, I would stay away from CM Punk as far away as possible when it comes down to letting him anywhere near your business. That's just my opinion. But if anyone can make it work, I think WWE could make it work. The timing is right. CM Punk has already came out to the public saying that he wanted, he would be down and be willing for another shot or run at the WWE. I just think that if that is something that is in the hindsight, it has to be in all controlled dispense. And we already know the history a little bit between Punk and Hunter. I'm not seeing Hunter get in the ring because of his medical conditions. Taker's not getting in the ring. Shawn's not getting in the ring. I just don't know who is going to be the one that either puts Punk out or gets Punk over. And I really don't know. I mean, yeah, he may get a great reaction in Philadelphia. He may get a superior reaction in Chicago, of course. I just don't know how the WWE would give the reaction, especially if it goes south and this is a PG-13 show. AEW, you could say a lot of things, and in WWE, you kind of can't. And if CM Punk does go back to the WWE, guess what? There's a lot of material that you can use, that both AEW and WWE can use when it comes down to talking and mic promos against CM Punk. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. All right, we are wrapping up our episode here this afternoon. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you guys can hit that like, share, and subscribe button, we will be back tomorrow to get you guys ready for the Reds and Tigers series, Game 1 in Detroit, starting up tomorrow as the playoff race continues. Bills, Jets later on tonight, Monday Night Raw. We'll talk about that. Also, other news lurking around the NFL. I know there's a whole bunch of news on this Monday. We can't cover that in all in the 2 hours. All right, that's all the time we have. I want to thank everyone. And until tomorrow, guys, take care. Enjoy the rest of your September 11th of 2023. All right, until next time, you guys are watching The Throw-In here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Take care. Have a good day.